So, I've been looking at these two cases, and there's a question that a lot of people have been asking. Why is it that some stories dominate the headlines and some stories do not? And let me go into that further. Now, I'm not bringing this up to cause any distress to anyone, to cause any hatred, to cause any racism or anything like that, right? That's not about me. That's not my ethos on anything like that. That's not me as a person from the heart, the soul, brain, physical, nothing like that. Right. Let's just get that clear to start with. What I want to know is if you go back to what happened, I think it was about 6 years ago with George Floyd, as wrong as that was, what happened to him with the police and their treatment of him, and as wrong, and we don't need to go back over that. We know what happened. That absolutely blew up everywhere. Everywhere. Whether you can remember back to that, but then obviously that brought about the BLM movement, um, which was, you know, piggybacked on that, which wasn't actually. I mean, this is a different thing, really, in a way, anyway. But the BLM movement and all that did turn out to be some Marxist movement, and was making a lot of money on the back of that. So they were using that, really. So it's quite disrespectful for what they was doing. But I think it was a black woman in charge of that, and she got a lot of money, um, living in a very massive house in a white suburb, I believe, like a very expensive area. Like I say, let's go back to what I was saying, though, that case was huge. What happened now across the world? They're taking the knee. I mean, it became a trend. Yet again, the actual fault of what happened, really, I think went out the window, and in the end, it became a trend. That's my opinion. Then you look at the Henry Novak case. Now, what happened with that? The difference for me, which is factual, is one's white, one's black. Okay? One was like a career criminal, and the other one is a young lad who's starting out on his adult life. Why should the career criminal gather world domination for what happened, whereas the 18-year-old white lad, it doesn't get the same headlines and the same outrage? Now, yes, it has been in the headlines and it has gathered pace, quite rightly so, because I mean, what do you say about it? I mean, we've seen the videos. It's devastating to think what that lad went through and what the police did. It's absolutely heartbreaking. But let's look at that, though. Why is that not dominating even more so? The fact that he was younger, the fact that he wasn't a career criminal. How can it not? That's why people are coming to the conclusion of it's because he's white, and that is a thing in the UK at the moment. And it's not trying to cause anger with people and all that, but it looks like there is a two-tier setup within the police that is dominating everything. They've gone along and they've had to think of the racist factor before the fact of him lying on the floor as a white lad. There is definitely something wrong here. This should be worldwide, everywhere, absolutely everywhere. The outrage that the police are acting like that shows there is something wrong. The police have been indoctrinated into this new wave of how they have to think and handle things, not policing without fear or favour and all of that. They're going into these situations now, depending on what it is, with a different thought in mind. They have to act in a certain way, not to create issues within certain cultures or communities. That's wrong. That is why there's a lot of white people now feeling like second-rate citizens and being ostracized in these areas because their rights don't matter. So in a way, all this inclusivity and coming together in communities definitely won't happen anyway, because the government and the police are pushing white people out like that. So it's not going to happen anyway. But let's be honest, it wasn't happening in the first place anyway. People weren't coming together. They're staying in their own little communities and they're not mixing. Yet again, that's a different matter, but it does feed into all of this. This should be dominating everything. This now should be the turning point in this country for massive debate. What I'm doing now is just talking about it, which I am allowed with free speech to do, or I should be allowed with free speech to do. And this is a question that we should all be asking now. Why? But it needs to stop. This needs to be the turning point for our kids. This can't happen anymore. This cannot happen to another white lad, girl, woman, man. And not because it can't just happen to white people. Yes, it shouldn't happen to any colour, because all lives matter. That was the message that a lot of people wanted to say 6 years ago. It's not just Black Lives Matter. But then they'd counteract and go, well, of course all lives matter, but black lives do matter. Now, more than ever now, it's showing white lives matter. That is not a racist statement. Henry Novak did not need to die. Now, what's happened and the fallout from it is just gathering pace. And it will continue to do that because people are fearful of what is next to come. I am myself. I have 2 young children. I've got a young boy. I want this stopped now before he's at an age when he's going out. It needs to end. It needs to end. Something has to stop and change now. We need to come together and make this stop. We haven't got 3 more years. It needs to end now. It has to be done in a safe way, and it has to be done in the right way. But the political movement has to gather pace. It has to pick up. But people demonstrating and stuff like that, there's nothing wrong with that. Freedom of speech. But it has to end now. We need this to stop. We cannot have any more deaths like this. Take care out there. But let's not forget Henry, and let's keep this going. Say it straight.